Good evening, lemonade sippers. I'm back with more opinionated commentary. This time around, we're going to discuss the viral interview Katt Williams did on Shannon Sharp's show, Club Shay Shay. I'm pleading with everyone to hear me out because I'm coming at this from a different angle than that of the popular opinion. It seems that most people that saw the interview are on Katt's side, but honestly, I'm not. Within the first few minutes of the interview, I could tell that Katt took issue with Shannon Sharp. Mr. Sharp had done interviews with other comedians prior to interviewing Katt. Comedians like Ricky Smiley, Cedric the Entertainer, and Steve Harvey. Right away, Katt accused Shannon Sharp of allowing these comedians to come on his platform and lie to his face. Now, when I heard that, I thought, okay, why is it Shannon Sharp's job to check his guest on business he knows nothing about? They come there to be interviewed by him, not interrogated, right? And when Shannon Sharp thanked Katt Williams for taking time out of his busy schedule to sit and talk with him, Katt responded by saying he's not interested in talking to anyone unless they're like a Larry King or someone of an amazing ilk. That let me know that he believes Shannon Sharp should be grateful that he's allowing him to interview him. Right? Now, although Katt followed that with some compliments about the success of Shannon Sharp's show and his football career, I noticed that he would also blend insults with compliments. There was a scene when he was talking about Steve Harvey and why he never became a movie star. He said that Steve was a country bumpkin black dude that couldn't talk good. Katt said this while looking Shannon Sharp in the eye. It felt like he was trying to tell Shannon Sharp that he too was a country bumpkin black dude that couldn't talk good. I don't know. Although the interview was very entertaining and did not disappoint, throughout the interview he was overly sarcastic, snide, and a bit sassy, if you will. And people with that type of personality are exceedingly hard to talk to. I would like to digress back to the Steve Harvey portion of the interview. At one point, he alleged that Steve Harvey was deceiving us with that hair hat he wore back in the day. Now, I had heard about that before Katt Williams said it in this interview, but it sounds like he was the reason that this even got out to the public. He also alleged that Steve stole his life story about being homeless. Now, I do want to get more into the small details of his life that Katt Williams was willing to give us. Now, I don't know whether or not Steve Harvey was lying about being homeless, but I must say his account of his life sounds more believable than the story Katt Williams gave us about his. I was reading in between the lines of the snippets of information he gave us about his childhood. He may never confess this, but I believe that Katt Williams may have been violated as a child. He talked about coming from this religious family of Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, we all know that devious behavior is a common occurrence in the church, and church folk are notorious for covering up inappropriate actions in the church. The reason I believe that Katt may have been violated is because he seems to be obsessing over not wearing a dress, which in my opinion is a reasonable stance if you're not comfortable, but you took that stance. It's not incumbent upon you to chastise other men who decided that their manhood was not threatened by wearing a dress. I also took issue with how cagey he was about his personal life, but would confidently divulge other people's personal business. I mean, he went after a lot of people that are seemingly unproblematic. He talked about how Martin Lawrence promised to reach out to him about doing a film together, and Martin kept his word and tried to get him in a film with him, but Katt found out that the film was going to be Big Mama's House 2. He says, and I quote, "I almost died." Now, what I get from this is Martin kept his word, but Katt reneged because he didn't like the role, which is fine. And that really should have just been that. We shouldn't even be hearing about this now. He turned it down. Case closed, you know? Then he goes on to say that he encouraged them to go and get Brandon T. Jackson for the part. Now, he's super protective of his manhood, but willing to sacrifice other people's manhood. Like when he talked about putting a clause in his contract stating that he would only work with Ricky Smiley if he's in a dress. Again, protecting his manhood, but sacrificing other people's manhood. I noticed that throughout the interview that his bitterness towards certain people prompted him to exaggerate or even lie about certain things. Like when he insinuated that Ludacris's wife was unattractive. Okay, so I've seen photos of her and she's very attractive. Okay. Now, I believe he may have been pandering to black women in that moment. He also said Faison Love's Big Worm character wasn't good. Now, we all know that the first installment of the Friday trilogy was the best. Okay, and truthfully, I believe that's why he took shots at Faison Love and Chris Tucker. He knows that the Friday they were in was way better than the other two Fridays. Okay, but back to Ludacris. He claimed that he and Ludacris were up for the same role, and the only reason they chose Ludacris is because he was willing to do something a little strange for a role. So basically, Katt's ego would not allow him to accept the possibility that someone was chosen over him because they were better or more marketable. Okay, he did the same thing when talking about Kevin Hart. He made it seem as if Kevin Hart is some sort of industry plant just because he would be chosen for parts over him. Right? He just comes off as extremely arrogant, and he seems to struggle with getting along with other men, unless they are less talented or less successful than he is. You know. All right, so here's what I gathered from listening to Katt's interview. The creators of Friday After Next spoiled him. He thought because he was able to convince the creators of Friday After Next to give him creative control of the Money Mike character, he thought he'd be able to convince directors of other films to do the same. And then he got his ego shattered when they just simply replaced him with someone less problematic. You know, throughout the interview, whenever Katt was asked questions about his personal life, he would be extremely vague with his answers, but unapologetically confident when divulging other people's business. Listening to him, I picked up on some arrested development. Now, according to him, he left home at 13, and I believe that this is where his growth may have stopped. Also, now there has to be more to that story because Katt is 50, so that means he was 13 in 1986. I consider 1986 modern times because it's less than 40 years ago. Now, I could be dead wrong about this, but I'm having a hard time believing that a 13-year-old in 1986 was just roaming around unaccompanied and the law never got involved. He came from a religious two-parent household and just went MIA at 13 after a fight with his father. And at no point did anyone reach out to law enforcement to search for this 13-year-old. You know? Okay, clearly there must have been something highly inappropriate going on in that house that the parents didn't want anyone to know about. Well, that's all I have to say about this. If you agreed with my commentary, thumbs me up. And if you disagree, thumbs me down. If you got something to get off your chest, well, that's what the comment section is for. You can even drag me if you want. Catch y'all next time.